This is Halloween, this is Halloween, 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 Halloween. What the hell? Well, your cyber gun, alright. Kalashnikov. Interesting magazine, probably proprietary. 400 FPS .12s, 350 capacity, springs, 600. That guy's just stuff. There's no way in hell Cybergun made you. Time to do a little research on the interwebs. Let's see where you did come from, my little Kalashnikov friend. Korea. You are a long way from home. Alright, I'm game. Let's see what Korean Airsoft has to offer. To Airsoft, there is very few communities that are not really talked about. However, one that I rarely ever see someone talk about, if not anyone ever talk about, has to be, ironically enough, Korea. Yes, Korea. For some reason, no one ever talks about the Korean Airsoft scene. In fact, there's rarely any discussions of it online. Until I started digging, and until I got this gun. When I started digging into the Korean Airsoft scene, I started finding some really interesting stuff that I never knew about. In fact, I wish someone get to US Airsoft and let them know that the Daewoo, all the variations of the Daewoo is real, but it's Korean only. Or, more specifically, it is in that Korean peninsula area, and is made by a company known as Toy Star, as well as another company known as Academy. Both companies are technically toy companies as well as model building companies. But both companies sell primarily in Korea. Until recently. I found a website called 707 Arsenal that actually does sell Korean airsoft guns, as well as Korean airsoft everything. And that is pretty cool, in my opinion. But the really weird thing, diving deep down into the rabbit hole of the Korean airsoft scene, has revealed that their AEGs are also their springers.
Excuse me, what?
Let me be more specific on that. What I mean by that is that their springers, a good majority of them, the internals are self-contained units that are modeled after gearboxes. And all you have to do to convert a Springer into an AEG is just swap out the gearbox like you would on an AEG.
No! No! Does not compute! Does not compute! It does not compute!
I wish I was joking, but I'm not on this. All research has pointed to this. Everything has pointed to this. And I know you're thinking, well, now, that couldn't have been hard. It's just the internet. No, you have no fucking clue how hard it is to actually try and research Korean airsoft. Because unless you speak Korean or Japanese or some form of the Asian language of the Korean Peninsula, and or find a website that has actually got a translation program that doesn't give you broken Shinglish or broken English that you can understand perfectly, then understand now that trying to research Korean airsoft is about as hard as trying to research the Dead Sea Scrolls and their origin points. Okay, maybe not a good analogy there, but you get what I'm trying to say. Researching Korean airsoft is both fascinating and frustrating at the same time, and I would love to get more Korean airsoft guns into my collection, as well as to review, because until Cybergun, yes, the company Cybergun, which we all know as being corporate scumbags, for those of you who have actually understood Cybergun and have actually delved into their dealings, you'll understand why I say they're corporate scumbags. Cybergun Soft Air recently actually did something good. They imported a Korean AK, a Korean airsoft AK that I believe is a Toy Star AK, and or an Academy AK. Both could be one and the same, but it is Korean. All research has pointed to this, because Korean AK Springers, especially this one right here, if you haven't watched a War Toy Collections, or more or less those channels that say toy guns, you know, the videos that do toy guns when in reality they're airsoft guns, those are Korean airsoft guns that they're messing with, or they're gel ball blasters. Either way, though, you watch enough of those, you start realizing exactly which Korean airsoft gun it is. And this one is a Korean airsoft gun. So, enough of my gabbing, and let's just look at the box and see exactly what the hell we're messing with. And for $60, yes, $60 at Cabela's, that's where Tony, the guy who acquires all the guns and stuff that I review, found this thing. And if I had said no to him, and if my interest wasn't piqued, I wouldn't be talking about a Korean airsoft gun to this day. So holy hell, Tony, you did good for once. And in Hidden Gem Month, we're talking about a Korean airsoft gun. Looking at the box itself, it is the Cybergun Soft Air style promotional material. You have, of course, the Kalashnikov logo, the Kalashnikov emblem, the signature. You have, of course, AKS-74, that's actually true, the gun itself. The FPS with .2s, which is 400, 350 round BB magazine, or high-capacity magazine, which, by the way, the magazine apparently is compatible with AEGs. Again, we will fucking get to it when we get to the shooting test, I promise you right now. 6mm and spring-powered. The box itself is nothing to sneeze at. However, the cool thing about it is, well, outside of the obvious, it's not styrofoam, it's cardboard. For $60, cardboard packaging. Then again, this could be the Korean packaging, because from my research, Korean packages rarely use styrofoam. In reality, they use all cardboard instead of styrofoam for their packaging. So, again, this could be just the Korean box itself, and Cybergun basically creating the top cover for it just to slide on, so they can say, oh no, this is totally not a Korean airsoft gun. We didn't import this from Korea. Again, one of those things. But opening the box itself, you get a lovely bag of translucent green not translucent green BBs, which actually are pretty, and I'm not going to use them. I might use them one day in art, maybe. I may give it to my art friends and let them be artsy with the BBs, because there are a lot of pretty BBs I have, .12s, that are really beautiful and really pretty, that could be well used in art projects. But, either way though, you also get the manual itself, which has the big Kalashnikov logo on there. Not that impressive to say the least, but at least it's an instruction manual. And already, I gotta love this. Orange safety tip is number 7, which the tip itself, I believe, is threaded, if my research is to be agreed on. But either way, it's a simple it's a simple pamphlet, has all the warnings, has everything you want to know about it. But then we get to the interesting thing of it. The gun. The gun is a full-size AKS-74. It's solidly built, all polymer, has a polymer instead of metal buttstock here, triangular folder, which does comply with the Korean laws. Yes, Korean airsoft laws are pretty interesting, to say the least. The magazine itself is, like I said in the unboxing video I did for this, actually is an AEG magazine, essentially, just with the cool follower here. And I want to point this magazine out before we continue. From the research itself, this will work and will feed into AEGs. And the cool part is that this style of magazine would be wonderful for airsoft, or for at least for the American airsoft communities, because having this sort of follower itself, if it was a stronger spring, would work out pretty well and give us the ability to not only, of course, pull it down to help feed in for mid caps, but put a numbering system on the side of that sucker. You have the ability to have a colored indicator that you can pull down and be able to see how many BBs you have. And yes, I know PTS has a EPM magazine that has this style of follower, but that's behind a that's behind a polycarbonate view window, not a you can actually grab it and pull it down. Now imagine if this was metal, or better yet, to my 3D printers out there, 3D print this fucking thing. But again, just one of those things. It is based off a 20-rounder, mind you, a 20-round magazine. To the gun itself, this is where things get kind of fun, because this is an all-polymer gun, as stated before. Not a lot of metal. And ooh, that's a hard prime. That's actually pretty decent. That's actually got a pretty decent pop to it. Opening her up, actually, and yeah, this is where it gets kind of fun. Because this is the entirety of it. Because the way this is held down is that the cover here holds this down, and you can actually fully remove the charging handle. Yeah, just like that. You can remove the charging handle, you can pull this off, and that's a hop-up unit. That is a version 3 hop-up unit right there. That is insane, but cool at the same time. That is so cool. And once again, that encased unit, you can see that. You can see the encased unit right there. So, that's actually kind of cool. That is all sorts of wicked. Now, I'm a little curious on this, because I know some research I've done says that it has this feature, but I'm a little curious. So I'm just going to hold down the trigger. I'm going to rack the bolt real quick. It has slam fire. It has slam fire. What is this gun? Okay, if this thing has a threaded barrel on it, then I'm sold on this. I am sold on what I'm going to do with it. So, let's just fold that up real quick. Okay, so pushing down this, and if I can actually get the damn thing to stay down. Let me get a paper clip real quick here, guys. Holy hell. It's just, the thing has a 14mm thread. The thing has a 14mm threaded barrel. Is the inner barrel secured? That's where, so, I have read that the inner barrels are not secured all that much, and the way it's wobbling a bit, I can believe that. Very much so. So, yeah, you're going to want to be kind of careful with that. So, from what I've read, the inner barrel is actually kept in place by this because there is no locking lug in the fixed hop-up unit on this thing. So, if you're going to swap out the bright orange tip for a full metal one, or even put a suppressor on here, you're going to want to swap out the inner barrel as well as the fixed hop-up unit in this for a legitimate hop-up unit and a barrel of your choosing, be it type or otherwise, to turn this into a sleeper gun, because this is, which I'm hoping to replace this in the future with either a full metal one or a solid stock folding stock for the AK, for this AK, because again, as much as I do love the triangle folding stock, I do want a lovely little thing there, more or less. Aside from that, though, you do have the standard front and rear sight. The rear sight, of course, having the battle aperture and the 400 to 500 meter aperture, which, again, actually is pretty good. The stock itself is where things are going to get kind of fun for you guys, because this is wobbly. It is very wobbly. Now, yes, of course, people will say, oh, but the AK-74 stock is also wobbly. Well, yes, that was meant for recoil, but with airsoft, especially with a Springer like this, you don't want the stock to be overly wobbly. You want it to be solid. And with this being all polymer, because, of course, Korean laws, having to dictate with Korean laws, of course, you have to be able to do that. And while, yes, not completely flimsy, it is strong, sturdy, with what feels like metal inserts, I think, on the walls themselves. It feels like it, that, or is very thick polymer. It is still a somewhat solid stock, but I would not recommend it. Whenever you fire, you do want to take your shoulder off a bit and do this, or at least have it to where, you know, it's under your arm when you rack the bolt a bit. Speaking of the bolt itself, it is a very stiff prime, but then again, you are fighting a spring that returns the bolt home, so that way it is in battery. Now, the one thing I have read about is the magazines not being very secured because of the way the magazine release is built. So let me just go ahead and kind of let me fold the stock here real quick, which, by the way, that stock button, the button for it is rather stiff, so be careful with that. Let me go and do this. Grab it by the magazine. Okay, then, yeah, that's, so it's just these magazines and this magazine release. However, when you put an AEG magazine in there, from what I've read, it will do actually pretty good. It won't come out. It's just this, the way apparently this notch is designed, or at least the way the magazine release is designed. I'm not 100% sure. We'll have to try other AK bodies. But outside of that, the markings are what they have to be. There is, of course, the 74 on the 1974 marking on the trunnion itself. Everything about this is an AK through and through. So let's go ahead and get the chronograph and firing test and see what we get out of it, shall we? Let's go ahead and, because, again, the fact that this can feed AEG magazines, I have here with me the JG D74 here to see about the magazine from this actually feeding into this, since it was able to. I am a little curious about it actually being able to feed into the BB's actually being able to feed into it, so, again, the fact that both are interchangeable is going to be interesting. But I also have, I'm going to be taking two AK lowers, and checking about the magazine, because if you saw before, the magazine didn't exactly sit well in there, but with a standard AEG magazine, it did sit well in there. So I am kind of curious about the different lowers, and whether or not it's just the magazine catches, or just the lowers themselves. So we're going to test that out here first, before anything. So right here I have two lowers. I've got, or at least the bodies themselves. I have a classic Army body here, with a SEMA magazine release here, because I swapped out the two, and I have a SEMA body here with a classic Army magazine release. So let's go ahead and go with the mismatch first. Let's go with the classic Army with the SEMA, and not really wanting to do that, but granted, that's just oh no, wait, there we go, there we go. Had to actually pull the magazine release back on this, but yeah, no, that's staying on there, so pulling that out, it goes in there. Now let's go with the classic Army magazine release with the SEMA body. Holy shit, actually it works. It actually locks up in there pretty good. So the more pronounced magazine release actually works out, so I might take this trigger guard magazine release off here and put it on the AK there, so that it actually feeds in there pretty good. But that's neither here nor there. Let's go ahead, take this And again, FPS readings first before, there we go, for anything. Because I am curious about the FPS this is actually pushing out, because it did say it was 400 with a .12, so let's see what it does with a .2. By the way, the BBs I'm using are Bulldog BBs, so Bulldog .2 BIOS, firing, 292. 300. 296. 297. One more. 295. So we are looking at that around the 300 FPS, which is not that bad. Now I'm going to take the magazine out of here, of course, and well, let's go ahead and get the BBs back with the Bulldogs. There we go. And we're going to grab this AK mags, the AEG AK mag. Now this is actually something a little bit interesting, is because the magazines this will take, because of the two things right there, as I've stated before, if I haven't, my bad, is that the magazine has to have this style of back right here, where it's a little bit low, versus, let's see if I can grab the flash mag, versus this more sharp back here. Because the more sharper back will not go in there. Now, maybe because of the magazine release, I don't know, but with this one, with its less pronounced back here, it will actually lock into place, and unlike before, actually does lock into place. So I don't know if that's because of one or the other, but we're going to see if it will feed BBs. Yes, it does! It feeds BBs. So this does actually work with AEG magazines. Damn, Korea, you're awesome. You're ingenious. But does the magazine work with AEGs? There's the question, because it will lock into the bodies, but will it feed into the AEG? That's why we have the JG here for that. Of course, I got a loose BB in there because, yeah, it'll feed 16, but not 17. So let's go ahead and get in there, and there we go. Lock it up in. Come on, you bastard. There it goes. Locked. We are locked in. Okay, so I heard it go in there. I don't know if it'll feed. So let's go ahead. Yeah, that's actually really tight in there. Holy shit. Let's go ahead, get a battery, and see if it will fire. I've got a Titan 11-1 here. Let's go ahead, get the battery all nice and plugged up. We're going to see if this magazine will work. And if it does, it's going to be a really interesting magazine. If this does feed, I've got a new magazine to look into about Korean mags. So, firing. It feeds! Let me just get you guys pointed down at this, because you're going to want to see this yourself. Let me get this pointed in here. Let me get this pointed in for you to see. Cool part is that I can actually... Yeah, there we go. There we go. That's actually kind of cool. That's actually really cool. Let me just... So not only does this magazine actually feed into AEGs, which, by the way, that's fucking awesome, but the follower also can work to help feed the BBs into the... Seriously, someone start 3D printing these types of magazines, because, again, all you gotta do is paint this follower here, a different color, have some numbers on the side here. Hot damn! And while, yes, this takes 16 BBs, well, 17 if you really want to go to, because it's technically high cap, but if you really want to, you could actually design this where it was a 30-round style instead of the 20-rounder here. Have this actually go like a type of, you know, woo, 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 like that, and be able to actually help feed the thing along. There is so much that can be done with this style of magazine. That is way too fucking awesome. But enough of that. We have a large 30-round style 7.62x39 magazine in this Springer AK. Let's take it outside, get a range test out of this, shall we? Alright, so we have the either Toy Star or Academy AK-74 here. And I've got the run cam here. Yes, it's at a cattywampus angle, but it'll still do the job, hopefully enough. So we're just going to turn on, and we're just going to do a straight flat shot at the large tree out there. So, here we go, large tree test. Oh, might help if I have the safety off. Okay, now large tree chest. That right there was actually pretty good distance. That was, I want to say at least a good 50 or so feet, if not beyond, a little bit more. The shots were going well beyond the tree. That's what's actually kind of crazy about that. So we're going to go to the highest point possible, and we're just going to do straight distance, just to see how feasibly far we can actually fire this thing. So let's go ahead and get to the highest angle possible where gravity is not at play. Well, a little bit at play, but you get what I'm saying. You know, highest point possible, more or less. So let's do that. Here we are at the highest point possible of my yard, which let me go ahead and get the swinging chair out of the way. Okay, I got the swinging chair out of the way so far. And let's go ahead, get the run cam going, and see what kind of just straight, flat distance shot we're getting. So, here we go. That flew all the way to the barn. That is insane. And awesome at the same time. So, yeah. Let's go ahead and take this inside and give our final verdict, shall we? So, I'm not gonna lie. I'm pleasantly surprised at this. Yes, the range is not as good as I hoped it would be, but then again, this is a Korean airsoft gun. The FPS limit in Korea is, yeah, and we're not going to get into Korean airsoft laws or even Korean Peninsula airsoft laws, because Jesus Christ, those things are, yeah, I'm not a lawyer, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not going to get into them, nor the FPS laws over there. But what I will say is that this is a CQB gun. I'm not joking on that. This is a CQB gun. It is meant to be small, compact, and meant to fight at close range. So, with the hop-up the way it is, the fixed hop-up I mean, it is admirable for close range engagements. It has the FPS for indoor fields. And the fact that this can be, from what I've read, mind you, I am going to be doing a video on this to actually see if I can swap out the internals and just throw in a gearbox in this bad boy and go just right with it as is, mind you. Which, the way everything is looking at this, I might damn well be able to. This is more or less a Springer that is meant to be used in Korea by players who can't get an AEG or cannot afford an AEG but still want to play airsoft, but they can't afford the AEG, but they still want an airsoft gun that they can convert into an AEG in the near future. Again, fucking Koreans, man, they are ingenious bastards. And I love them, because again, all research I've done has pointed to this and many other Springers having essentially Springer body. The internals are basically just self-contained units that are shaped and sized like gearboxes. So you can basically take them out and put in fucking gearboxes. Again, if you want to buy your own Korean airsoft gun, and believe me, you're going to be spending a lot because of fucking import taxes, be it the Springer kit or otherwise, 707arsenal.com. Right here, on the fucking screen. Type that in a URL, a new tab, or whatever. Go look at some Korean airsoft guns. They are fucking insane. Or better yet, wait till the end of this video to a channel that actually shows off Korean airsoft guns. A lot of those are pretty fucking insane. A lot of those have... There's a Springer M4 that has a hop-up No, a working open bolt and a fucking grenade launcher. For under $100 you can find on fucking eBay. I'm not joking on this shit, guys.
Get on with it. Yes, get on with it.
I'm sorry, I went to, I couldn't see the forest through the trees. I could not see the forest through the trees. More or less, what do I think of this AK? It's everything I ever wanted in a Springer. It accepts AEG magazines. The magazine is also compatible with AEGs and is somewhat innovative in its own right. The body itself is solid. It has a threaded barrel. It has AEG internals, essentially, that can be swapped out to be an AEG. Everything about it is what I ever wanted in a Springer. It is the step that Airsoft should take in terms of Springer airsoft guns. This, ladies and gentlemen, needs to be on your list of hidden gem guns, or at least foreign guns from foreign airsoft communities. This is a Korean airsoft gun. This is what Korea fucking has over us. What the fuck do we have over here in the US? We have UK Arms and, well, that's it. What do Koreans have? Koreans have spring airsoft guns that have AEG internals that can be turned into AEGs. Rev Nation, fucking eat your heart out, dude.
Excuse me, the fuck did you just say?
I wish I was joking on this, ladies and gentlemen, but I'm not. Because again, it deserves this. It deserves my highest rating. It's $60. It's not going to break your bank. It has AEG internals, essentially. And it is a CQB-oriented gun. And while, yes, you can take this for outdoor play, it is a CQB gun first and foremost. But you can convert it to be better, and you could put a fucking hop-up unit in here for version 3 parts. Ladies and gentlemen, the first gun, first foreign Springer, mind you, gets no more, no less than a 10 out of 10 legendary status. You can bet your foot that I'm telling you now, get this. Get Korean airsoft guns. Get as many as you can before someone makes it impossible to import them over here. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to look into getting more Korean airsoft guns. I'm going to look more into the Korean airsoft scene. I'm going down the rabbit hole, ladies and gentlemen. And dear God, after all these years of suffering every October, I finally found one. I found the Springer that is above all other Springers and is not a Tokyo Marui.
I am Jesus! I am Jesus!
Yeah. Tokyo Marui's Jesus. We get that. But Korea is our Jewish community. Wait, what?
No.
More or less what I'm trying to say, you ravenous fanboys of Tokyo Marui who are going to come into the comments section claiming that Tokyo Marui is fucking God. Well, fuck you!
Big step back and literally fuck your own face!
Korea just kicked your ass and basically claimed its place as the ultimate nation who makes the better fucking Springers. Fuck you, China. You fucking suck. Korea, I'm gonna definitely invest into you more.
I'll take your entire stock!
But, ladies and gentlemen, if you want a Korean airsoft gun for yourself, the two companies that make them are Academy and Toy Star. Academy does in fact have a Amazon sellers page and an eBay page that you can find their guns on. And Toy Star now has a website that you can buy them at. Or at least a website that is legitimately selling Toy Star airsoft guns. That, once again, is 707arsenal.com. If you want to go buy Korean airsoft guns, go to 707arsenal.com. They have all Korean airsoft guns. Not only that, but the Springer kits and the AEG kits.
Just take all my money. Oh, not this soon, not this soon. Ah!
And if you want to buy this particular little baby right here, go to Cabela's. Cabela's has them, or at least their website has them. It's Kalashnikov AK-74, and you cannot miss it. I implore you, go buy this Korean piece. Go own a Korean airsoft gun. These need to be talked about more. These need to be literally shown more. Hell, go contact US Airsoft. Go fucking contact Evite. Go contact goddamn Airsoft GI. We need to import Korean airsoft guns into the country. Or at least somebody needs to start raising hell over it. If no one else does, I'll happily fucking do it. Because Korea, you have my attention. And I'm going to go all in on you, baby. But, till then, ladies and gentlemen, I will see you next week for Hidden Gem Month. And Lord only knows what's going to come of it. Till next time, ladies and gentlemen.